Some of the quietest constellations are born from the quietest stories. When we look up at the night sky, our eyes are usually drawn to great heroes, to mighty Orion, to the graceful swan spreading its wings across the Milky Way, or to the Northern Crown, which, according to an ancient legend, was once the golden crown of Ariadne. But there is another constellation that is very different. It does not resemble a hero, or a mythical creature, or even a magical object. If you are not looking carefully, you might not notice it at all. It appears as nothing more than a delicate cloud of tiny stars. And yet, for more than 2,000 years, people have called it by a beautiful and unusual name, Coma Berenices, Berenice's hair. How could something as simple as a lock of hair become part of the night sky? To discover the answer, we must travel back to a place where the warm waters of the Mediterranean Sea met the shores of ancient Egypt, to a city that was once considered one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world, Alexandria. This is where our story begins. Alexandria awoke before the sun. Long before the first light touched the sea, fishermen were already preparing their nets. Large merchant ships rocked gently in the harbor. Wooden piers creaked softly beneath careful footsteps. The scent of fresh bread drifted through the quiet streets as bakers opened their ovens. Seagulls circled above the water, calling to one another as morning slowly arrived. Far beyond the harbor stood the Great Lighthouse of Alexandria. Its white stone walls shone brilliantly beneath the afternoon sun, and every night a great flame burned at its summit, guiding ships safely back to shore. Perhaps every sailor who saw that light after a long voyage felt the same quiet thought. Even the longest journey will one day come to an end. High above the city stood the royal palace. From its terraces, Alexandria seemed endless. The harbor, the white rooftops, the distant sails, the narrow streets already filling with life. But above all, there was the sea. Morning turned it silver, noon painted it deep blue, and every evening it became a river of gold beneath the setting sun. A young queen often came to the highest terrace of the palace. Her name was Berenice. Yet if someone had seen her during those quiet evenings, they might never have guessed she was a queen. She cared little for grand celebrations. She rarely stayed long at noisy banquets. Instead, she preferred to sit alone above the sea as daylight slowly faded. She listened to the wind. She watched ships returning to the harbor. She waited for the first evening star. She could never explain why that first star meant so much to her. Perhaps because it was the gentle beginning of the night. Soon another star appeared, then another, until the entire sky shimmered with quiet silver light. Sometimes Berenice imagined that the sea became perfectly calm, only so the stars could admire their own reflection. She could remain there for hours, without thinking about tomorrow, without thinking about the palace, simply listening to the waves, because moments like these remind us how wonderfully vast the world truly is. Alexandria was famous for its great library. Scholars arrived from every corner of the ancient world. Some studied mathematics, others copied old manuscripts. Some searched for new knowledge among thousands of papyrus scrolls. But Berenice's favorite conversations were with the old royal astronomer. Every evening after sunset, he carried his star charts onto the palace terrace. Sometimes he made small notes on fresh papyrus. Then he quietly lifted his eyes toward the heavens. One evening, Berenice joined him. For a long while, neither of them spoke. Then she asked softly, "Do the stars ever change?" The old astronomer smiled. "They do, only very slowly. So slowly that sometimes a single human lifetime is not long enough to notice." Berenice looked up at the sky. "Then some stories must last much longer than we do." The old man nodded. "That is why people never stop looking upward. Some lights continue shining long after we can no longer see them." She remembered those words, although she did not yet know that one day they would become part of her own story. Only a few weeks later, the palace began to change. Messengers arrived more often. Military advisors gathered around large maps. Ships were prepared in the harbor. King Ptolemy would soon leave Alexandria on a distant campaign. Yet the palace terrace remained as peaceful as ever. Every evening, Berenice climbed the familiar stone steps to watch the sunset. The sea looked exactly the same. The first stars appeared exactly as they always had. Only her heart had become quieter, and somehow heavier. The evening before Ptolemy's departure, they walked together through the palace gardens. Palm trees whispered softly in the warm breeze. The last light of the day rested gently upon the marble paths. "I will return," Ptolemy said. Berenice smiled. She did not ask when. Some questions only make waiting more difficult. Instead, she looked toward the first evening star. "Then, every night," she said softly, "I will look for this first star, and somewhere beneath the same sky, perhaps you will see it too." Ptolemy lifted his eyes. The first star was already shining above them. Then, no matter how far apart we may be, the same sky will always bring us together. For a while, neither of them spoke. Sometimes silence says everything words cannot. The following morning, the royal fleet sailed from Alexandria. White sails slowly disappeared beyond the horizon. Berenice watched until the sea became empty once again. That evening, she entered the temple of Aphrodite. She did not ask for wealth. She did not ask for glory. She asked for only one thing: that Ptolemy would return home safely. Then she made a quiet promise. If he returned, she would offer the most precious thing she possessed: her beautiful hair. After the royal fleet departed, life in Alexandria continued much as it always had. Each morning the harbor filled with voices. Merchant ships arrived from distant lands. Scholars hurried toward the great library, carrying fresh scrolls beneath their arms. The city remained alive. But for Berenice, the days seemed a little longer. Every evening she returned to her favorite terrace. She watched the sun disappear into the Mediterranean Sea. She watched the colors of the sky slowly fade. She waited for the first star. Somehow it always brought her peace, because wherever Ptolemy was, he could see the very same sky. One evening, the old astronomer joined her once again. After a long silence, he asked, "Do you know why people think waiting is empty?" Berenice smiled. "Isn't it?" The old man slowly shook his head. "Look at the sea." She watched the gentle waves. Nothing seemed to change, and yet the water never stopped moving. "Waiting is like the sea," he said quietly. "It appears still, but beneath the surface it is always moving. It teaches patience." Berenice looked toward the horizon. "Then perhaps waiting is not lost time." "No," the astronomer replied. "Sometimes it is the bravest thing a person can do." She remembered those words. Weeks passed. The moon became full, then slowly faded into a silver crescent. Every night the lighthouse of Alexandria lit its great fire. Every night Berenice searched for the first star. One quiet morning the city suddenly became alive. Voices echoed across the harbor. People pointed toward the sea. Far away, tiny white sails appeared on the horizon. One, then another, then many more. The fleet was returning. Berenice stepped quietly onto the palace terrace. She did not run. She simply watched. The ship slowly grew larger, until at last she recognized Ptolemy's vessel. She closed her eyes for only a moment, then smiled. The most important thing was not that the campaign had ended. The most important thing was that the one she loved had returned safely home. That evening the city seemed unusually peaceful. The first stars appeared above Alexandria. Berenice looked toward them for a long time. Then she remembered the promise she had made. She knew the time had come to keep it. The following morning, Berenice returned to the temple of Aphrodite. The city had only just begun to awaken. Soft morning light filtered between the tall stone columns. The temple was quiet. She stood before the statue of the goddess. For a long time, she simply remained there in silence. Some promises need very few words. Finally, she whispered, "Thank you." She removed her royal diadem. Her long hair fell gently across her shoulders. Many people believed it was the most beautiful hair in all of Egypt. But that morning, Berenice was not thinking about beauty. She was thinking about ships returning safely, about families reunited, about evenings of waiting that had finally come to an end. Then she quietly fulfilled her promise. She left her gift before the goddess, without sadness, because true gratitude never feels like losing something precious. The following morning, something unexpected happened. When the temple priests opened the doors, Berenice's gift was gone. They searched every room. They looked beneath every altar. They questioned everyone who had entered the temple. But her beautiful hair had simply disappeared. No one could explain what had happened. Soon whispers spread throughout Alexandria. Some believed it had been stolen. Others thought it was a blessing from the gods. Many simply smiled and admitted that not every mystery needs an answer. That evening, as he always did, the old royal astronomer climbed the palace terrace. He carefully unrolled his star charts. Then he looked up. For a long moment, he did not move. Berenice noticed the expression on his face. "What is it?" she asked quietly. The old man slowly raised his hand toward the sky. "Look." High above the horizon shimmered a faint cluster of delicate stars. It was not bright. It did not demand attention, but somehow its shape felt strangely familiar. The astronomer smiled. "Sometimes," he said softly, "the gods accept a gift in ways we could never imagine." Berenice looked at the tiny cluster of stars. She knew no one could ever prove whether the legend was true. But in that quiet moment, she wanted to believe. Years passed. Stories rarely remember every detail. They remember only the moments people continue telling one another. The story of Queen Berenice slowly traveled beyond Egypt. Greek travelers carried it across the Mediterranean. Later, Roman writers told it in their own way. Some believed Aphrodite herself placed the queen's hair among the stars. Others said it was a gift from the gods in honor of a promise that had been faithfully kept. Whatever the truth may have been, one thing remained the same. A new constellation appeared in the sky. Unlike Orion, unlike the Great Bear, unlike the mighty heroes of ancient myths, it was small, gentle, almost hidden among countless other stars. And yet people gave it a name that has survived for more than 2,000 years. Coma Berenices. Berenice's hair. Centuries came and went. The Great Lighthouse of Alexandria disappeared. The famous library was lost to history. The royal palace slowly faded into the past. Empires rose, empires fell, but the stars remained. Today astronomers know that Coma Berenices is far more than a simple group of stars. Beyond it lie countless distant galaxies, millions upon millions of suns scattered across the universe. Science has revealed wonders that the ancient world could never have imagined, and yet the constellation still carries the same gentle name, because science tells us what we are looking at, but stories remind us why we continue looking up. If one clear spring evening you happen to find Coma Berenices, take your time. It is easy to miss. It does not shine as brightly as Orion. It does not immediately catch the eye. Perhaps that is exactly what makes it so beautiful. Some things reward only those who are willing to look a little longer. And perhaps, if the sky is clear tonight, you may find it too. A small cloud of quiet stars, almost hidden among the darkness. Perhaps, as you look at them, you will remember the story of a young queen. A story about hope, about patience, about a promise that was quietly kept, and about a simple gift that, according to an ancient legend, found its place among the stars. Now, there is nothing more you need to do. Simply remain here for a little while longer. The sea breathes softly against the shore. A gentle evening breeze moves through the air. Far away, seagulls call one last time before night grows quiet. Nearby, a small campfire glows warmly beside the beach. Its gentle crackle blends with the sound of the waves. The stars continue their silent journey across the sky, just as they did thousands of years ago, just as they always will. Let your thoughts become lighter. Let your breathing slow. There is nowhere else you need to be, only here, beneath the stars, beside the quiet sea, where ancient stories still whisper through the night. Sleep peacefully, and may the gentle light of Coma Berenices watch over your dreams until morning. Remain here for another to 2 minutes, with only soft waves, a gentle breeze, distant seagulls fading away, and the quiet crackle of a warm campfire.